Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week on Thursday, a brand new guest joining us talking about their life and their journey through the world of martial arts and everything in between. My guest today is a martial artist, an athlete, a film actress. She was a world champion in forms and weapons from 1981 to 1985 and retired undefeated with over 100 competitions. She holds 5 black belt ranks, and after retiring from competition, she made a name for herself as an action actress in Hong Kong before wowing audiences in the U.S. She starred in over 60 movies. In 1983, she became the first woman to grace the cover of Karate Illustrated, was inducted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame, and in 2016 was the first martial artist, male or female, to be inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dr. Robert Goldman. Please welcome today my guest, the lovely, the talented, the legend, Cynthia Rothrock. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I truly appreciate you doing this. I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Good. So like what we do with all my guests, I want to go back to the beginning and find out where was that first spark, that first interest in the martial arts, and kind of what led to you, that started your martial arts journey.
Well, I was 13 and I was kind of a different kind of kid. I always liked to try different things, unique things, something that wasn't normal. I always say I was kind of like an out of the box kind of person and still am today. But I was with my friend, and her parents were studying Tung Sido at the Scranton Karate School, and they owned a health club, and we would come down on Sundays because it was closed, and we'd work out in the big room and, do rolls and cartwheels and all that. And then they would put their karate uniforms on and practice. And I saw that and I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh yeah, we're studying martial arts. And they started doing forms. And I thought, wow, that uniform is like really cool. And then when I was watching them, I was like, wow, that's awesome that you can learn how to defend yourself with your hands and feet. So I went home, I told my mom about it. And then my mom signed me up at the Scranton Karate School.
Wow. That's actually really cool. So 13 years old. So what are some things you remember about some of those first classes? What made you, after you got into it, want to stick with it? What kind of stood out and made you enjoy it?
Well, at first I did not.
Oh, okay.
And it was a lesson learned that I've always took with me, though, my whole life, is that you never give up. And I remember starting, I was the only girl in the class, and it was all guys, and they're all shouting. And then there actually was one woman there, but I didn't know she was a woman. I thought she was a guy. And on my second class, the instructor paired me up with her, and she hit me in the head with a roundhouse kick, almost knocked me out. Right. So I was like, oh, I don't like this. Blocking with my head is not good. And then the next class I went to, someone said, hey, you just learned the front kick. Try to break this board. And they gave me a half a board, which, is almost impossible to break.
Yep.
And I tried it and I thought I broke my toe. And then I was like, you know what? I don't really like this. And I was learning basic form 1. I couldn't get the turn. And it was about a month and a half. And I told my mom, I said, I don't like it. I want to quit. And my mom said, no, I signed you up for 4 months. You're staying with it for 4 months. So we were sitting down after class one day and the instructor gave a talk. And basically, I thought he was gearing it directly to me about quitters are losers. And if you have a bad attitude, you're never going to get anywhere in life. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I want to quit. I don't want to be a loser. I do have a bad attitude. I hate push-ups. Let me start thinking, I love push-ups. What's the benefit? Oh, they're good for my arms. They're going to make me really strong. My punch is stronger. And I just changed my attitude from that. And then once I changed my attitude, I started getting better. And I got that move on basic 1. And I didn't mind doing push-ups, and then I tested for my first belt, which was orange. And at that point, my instructor wanted me to go into a competition. At that time, it was just women. There were no ranks. So I was competing at 5.5 months with some black belts.
Wow.
And I ended up taking second And black belt took first, black belt took third. And actually the girl that hit me in the head, the black belt from the school, she took third. So I was quite happy. I was like,
Wow.
okay. And then, that just fired me from that point on, that if I could, at 5.5 months, beat black belts, I'm going to train really hard. And my goal was to be the best in the sport.
Wow, that's actually a really cool story. They actually already answered, because I was going to ask you how you got into competition. You kind of answered that, so that obviously became kind of the big part of it, and obviously that's what you were known for so long, was just being an amazing competitor. What do you think it was in you that kind of really just drove you to do that? I mean, had you done sports before, or was this the first time you'd ever done anything like in a competition wise?
Well, no, it was my first competition, but
Okay.
I was pretty active. I used to go ice skating. I used to swim, I used to play baseball. I used to do that kind of sport activities, but not so much, an art like this. I was young, so that, yeah, it just, it just fired me, when I won that competition. We just kept competing in all these tournaments. And I think what it was is I never won a trophy before. And I was like so proud, and I remember my mom displayed it on the living room table. And then there were 2 trophies, then there were 10, then there were 30. And then they started going in the basement. Then they started going in the attic,
Wow. So at what belt level did you start doing the weapons also, or was that right away?
No, it wasn't, because when I was studying Tung Sido, we didn't have any weapons at all. It was just
okay.
hands and feet. And I remember I was competing in a tournament in New York. I believe it was Fred Hamilton's tournament. And I saw this guy, Benson Lee, there doing a double-headed spear form. And I went crazy. I said, oh my gosh, I want to learn that. I love that. So I asked him where he's from. I was from Scranton. He said he studied with Shum Leung in New York City, which was about maybe around 3-hour drive for me. And I found someone that would go with me, and we would drive up there every Sunday for 3 years. And
Wow.
I did that all because I wanted to learn weapons, So it was just something that I was obsessed with. I knew I loved doing open hand forms, but I loved even more working with all these different weapons, because it was unusual, it was dangerous, it was creative, it was beautiful, all that just inspired me to just keep searching out and do weapons. I also went to mainland China and studied in 1982.
Wow.
I was there for about 8 weeks, and that was a trip, because at that time you weren't really allowed to go into China. You had to have all these special permits, and I just wanted to learn as much as I could about weapons.
Wow. And so did you have a favorite one you like to compete with, or did you change it up and do multiple weapons?
Most of the time I competed with a weapon called the double hook swords, which are two swords, and there's basically 9 different weapons attached to one handle. So you can use it various ways. You could hook them together, then you have a long range weapon. And that's what I'm known for. That's what I won my championships in 1982. I had to compete against the men all the time in weapons, because they never had a women's division. And I won out of everybody in, the North American regions. And that was a feat that I was very proud of, because it was very hard for a young girl to come in and win the men's, not just one time, for the whole year. So I did that. And a lot of times I would tie. I know I would tie a lot with Keith Hirabayashi.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd have to do a different weapon. So then I would mix that up. I did broadsword. I did the steel whip. I think I might have done the 3-sectional staff once or twice, but they were my backup weapons.
You don't see the 3-sectional staff as much. That's actually one of my favorites. Not me using it, because I'm not good with it. Regular staff, yes, but my instructor is amazing with 3-sectional staff, and I always loved watching him compete with that.
Yeah, it's definitely an awesome weapon. I mean, with the 3-sectional staff, it's much harder than the nunchaku, the 2-section, and these are longer. And I just remember learning it, doing the different spins and around the back, around the neck, and wearing a football helmet, because when
Yep.
that big long stick at the end hit you in the head, that hurt.
Very much. Yeah, I did the padded sparring gear I'd put on my head when I was learning that weapon, and yeah, I got hit in the head many times with 3-sectional staff.
At that time, the safety equipment wasn't even developed. That's how long we're going back. And so I literally had a football helmet.
That's awesome. Wow. So how long did you stay at that first school then in Scranton, and what level did you get to there?
I got to a second degree black belt there.
Okay.
And then at that time, martial arts were different. It was very competitive. It was almost like none of the schools were friends. Everybody was competition. And, I started studying at a local Kung Fu school because I wanted to learn more of the Kung Fu. And my Tung Sido instructor said, you can't study both styles. You have to pick one, which was really disheartening to me because I didn't want to. But at that time, it was like, you can't, So I ended up like doing the Kung Fu and did that for a long time. And then many, many, many years later, I went back to my Tung Sido roots with Grandmaster Robert Kovaleski, and which I was glad, to get back into it because that's my original style. Mm-hmm. So so that was the shift from Tung Sido to Kung Fu.
So did that have studying Kung Fu, did that have kind of a big impact on your forms and the kind of forms you were doing?
Yeah, definitely. They were really different. And that's what I liked about the Kung Fu because it was a little more challenging. It was like all the stances were low, they were splits of stances, you hold your leg up for balance. It was much more complicated. And I liked that kind of movement when I was performing. So the good thing that I have is the basis from Tung Sido was, I'm so glad I started off with Tung Sido because it taught me power in my hands, power in my feet. So when I was doing the Kung Fu forms, I was doing them a little stronger than everybody else. I remember like my instructor, Roger Tong, was telling me I was doing it too powerful. And I was like, but Roger, this wouldn't work for me if I didn't do it hard, right? And then we competed together and I beat him. I was like, oh, that's why you were telling me don't put so much power in.
That's awesome. Nice. And then, so what's I know you in your bio said you have 5 different black belts. So what style came next?
Well, I started off first with Tung Sido. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Pai Lum Kung Fu, which was local. Then I went to Eagle Claw Kung Fu with Shum Liang.
Okay.
Then I studied Wushu. I went, I studied with Roger Tong, and I went to China to study in Taiwan. And then I studied Kempo. And I also studied different types of Tai Chi as well.
Which style of Kempo did you take?
Chinese Kempo.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, it was under United Studios of Self-Defense. I was working with them. And and I also studied Taekwondo. I forgot I have a second degree black belt in Taekwondo as well. What happened is when I moved to California, I was studying with Ernie Reyes and they were Taekwondo. And basically Tung Sido and Taekwondo are pretty similar. The only thing different is just the form. So Grandmaster Ernie Reyes said, okay, well, I want you to learn all these forms. And he taught them all to me. And then he tested me and had to break like cinder blocks. And he gave me like a second degree in Taekwondo.
Nice. That's my core style. I actually started in Tung Sido also when I was 10. Tung Sido was my first style. Then I did Shotokan, and then Taekwondo, Aikido, American Kempo, and then mixture in some other stuff too. But Taekwondo and Tung Sido are very, very. They're basically sister arts, so they're very similar. Yes. So in all the years then in the schools, did you ever teach at all? Is that something you ever aspired to do? And
oh yeah, no. Before I did movies, that's what I did for a living. I had 2 schools in Scranton.
Oh wow, okay.
And then when I moved to California in 1981, I had a school with George Chung. The 2 of us were partners, so we opened up a school there. And then when I moved to Hong Kong, my goal was to be undefeated for 5 consecutive years. Mm-hmm. And it was a goal I really, really strived for. So when I made that goal, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Because I was teaching and I was competing. And that's when my first movie role came. At the same time, I was my last year of competition. So I was blessed. I just transitioned from being a teacher at a school to doing martial art movies. And ever since then, I still teach seminars around the world. So I still teach, I love to teach because that is my passion.
Right.
And so I'm still doing movies, still teaching seminars.
So then how do you think your teaching style has changed over the years? Thinking back to when you first started teaching way back then and to now, what do you think's changed about your style?
Well, I don't think too much has changed. I'm really, really a stickler for technique. And I'm very picky with my students that everything is correct. Like it drives me crazy when I see people with these beautiful, flexible sidekicks, but then their foot's in the wrong position.
Yep.
So I think I've always been like that. I just, you just learn more as the years go, so you have a lot more to offer people. So I guess that's what's changed, is that I could teach pretty much many different styles now as compared to back in the day, only teaching the one style you were studying.
Nice. Okay. And you mentioned the movie. So how did that start? Is that something, did you seek out to do that, or did someone approach you? How did that first movie come about?
No, never. I used to watch, like, when I was in Shumley Young School, after we trained in New York, we would go to Chinatown and we'd see movies and have dinner every Sunday. And that's why I was introduced to Hong Kong cinema and Jackie Chan. And I was just like blown away by this action. And I remember coming home and like copying moves that Jackie Chan did, and I loved the fact that he could take anything like an umbrella and use it as a staff, So I would try to take different things I saw laying around the house and use them as weapons, because I was really, really like influenced by that. And how it came about is I was on the West Coast demonstration team, and we were known like for like amazing men, like in the team. And Paul Maslick was the editor of Inside Kung Fu magazine, and he called Ernie Reyes and said, "Hey, can you bring your guys down? There's a Hong Kong director here doing an audition, and they're looking for the next Bruce Lee." And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." He goes, "What about the girls?" And they said, "Well, you could bring the girls down, but they're really looking for a guy." So we all went down to Los Angeles and we auditioned, and Corey Yoon said, "I want to go with the girl." So he signed me up, and that's how I got started. And I never thought I would have a career in it. I thought, oh, this is like such an awesome experience. I'm going to be doing a movie, and maybe my picture will be on the poster, and someday I could show my children, "Look at, your mother was in a movie." That's what I was thinking. And the first movie I did was Yes, Madam, with Michelle Yeoh, and it broke all box office records, huge success. And then I got offered by 3 different Hong Kong companies to do three more movies. So it kind of, after I did the first movie, I was like, oh yes, this is what I want to do. This is, what my destiny is to do martial art movies now, after I completed my goal of being undefeated through 5 years.
Wow. And yeah, I mean, and you were making so many. I mean, I grew up watching you, in the 80s, some of these amazing martial arts movies. I loved China O'Brien. I think that was the first time I saw you was that one. Then went back and watched a lot of your old ones. And I mean, I'm looking at like in 1990. I mean, you released 6 movies in 1990. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy then. Back then I was making a lot every year.
I mean, I'm guessing you were probably one of the hardest working martial arts actresses in the world at the time. That's crazy.
I think so. I mean, now I remember thinking like, I can't do another movie. I just need a break, And now you're like, I wish I had another movie.
So just those first couple of movies, what are some of the experiences you're memorable making it? What are some of the things that kind of stand out and stuff?
When I went to Hong Kong, I knew nothing about movies. And when I first got there, I thought, because I saw the Kung Fu movies, in Chinatown, I thought, oh, they're going to dress me like in long braids, and I'm going to have these Chinese uniforms on. And what if they put razor blades in my braids and I just spin my head around and attack everybody, because I see these movies. And I was quite surprised when they said, no, you're going to play Cindy, and you're just a cop from England, and you wear regular clothes. Because I never even saw a Hong Kong movie that was a modern day one. I thought they were all period movies, Right. And then when I got to set, there was no script, and I didn't know. I thought, oh, this is how you shoot. They give you your lines right before you get out there. But nobody spoke English. Nobody on the set spoke English except Michelle Yeoh. And they wanted me to say my lines in Chinese. Now, I was nervous. I had a hard time saying them in English, never mind Chinese, but I was trying to memorize the Chinese. And then they finally said, oh, that's okay. You could just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I went to Hong Kong, because that's the old stigma, and they dubbed actors, they just have them say numbers. And I said, and someone warned me about it. They said, ask, what are you saying in Chinese, and put the syllables to it. So they thought I was crazy, because I was like, no, how many syllables are there? And then I'd say, okay, well, what am I supposed to say? And then I try to put those words in that amount of syllables, so I didn't look like, your mouth is still moving and then it stops and your voice is still going.
That's awesome. So I'm curious now, in all your years in martial arts, have you had? I'm obviously most martial artists, you have injuries of some type. I'm curious, has your worst injury come making a movie or training in martial arts?
Actually, my worst injury has been training in martial arts. And it's an injury that I've had for over 35 years and never got fixed. I was doing a jumping spinning hook kick, and I came down and I heard my knee pop, and I ripped my anterior cruciate ligament. Well, then I had to go back. I was shooting Millionaires Express. So I went to the doctor and they go, oh, yeah, you need surgery. And I was like, I can't. I got to do this movie. So I just went and I did the movie. And then I had to do righting wrongs, and I blew out the knee again, even worse. And I had to change in the movie righting wrongs. Everything I did was dominant on my left side. And, as martial artists, we're pretty dominant on one side. Well, my side was right, but I had to change everything to my left. And I thought, oh, this is going to look terrible. But when I see the movie, I'm going, okay, I pulled it off. It was good. So I just learned to live with it, to live with the pain. I never got surgery. I mean, I trek like up to Everest, Machu Picchu. I've done these like bizarre, hardest treks you can in the world. I do a lot of like extreme sports, and people say, how could you do that with your knee? And I don't know what it is. I guess it's a martial artist thing, mind over matter.
And I love that, because that's literally almost identical to mine. I actually, well, although my injury wasn't from martial arts, I blew my lateral meniscus out when I was the day before my 16th birthday playing kickball in gym class, and was told that if I didn't have reconstructive surgery, I'd never do martial arts again. And I still to this day haven't had it done.
Yeah, so. I know, it's crazy. And then one time I went in and well, what happened is my orthopedic guy said, I don't know why you can kick and you could do everything you could do without an anterior cruciate ligament. He did an MRI and it was completely gone. And that's like what holds your knee in place. So he goes, we want to do a study. And he goes, if you ever get the surgery, I'll give you a good discount. He goes, if you do this study for me. So I was like, okay. So I remember they got these like electrodes or something, and they sewed them all into my legs, right? And I'm like, yeah, you really owe me big time now. And they made me run, they made me jump, they made me run backwards, sidestep, do all this thing. And the study came back that I could do all this stuff because my quads and my hamstrings were so strong. They held my knee in place.
Okay.
It's interesting. So, ever since then, I always try to, work on my quads and hamstrings, keep them strong.
Well, there you go. Whatever works, man. Like I said, you keep going and just kind of like you, just ignore the pain. And before you know it, you don't even realize it's there anymore. So,
right. Cool. Exactly. Yeah. That's, I guess, how it is now. It's not like, it's not to the point, like if it ever got to the point where I couldn't really do anything on it, I would totally do it. But, if it's just like, just remember, the pain is my friend.
Yep. I've been told I will have to have it at some point, but last time I had an MRI done, and the doctor was shocked I'd never had my knee rebuilt. He's like, "Are you serious?" So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually went in because I was like, you know what? Let me just go in. And I was like, what can you do? And he looked at me and he said, just keep doing what you're doing. Yep. Because you're getting fine. He goes, do you ever think of like sitting home reading a book? I said, never. He goes, yeah, I figured.
Nice. So looking through your resume and IMDb, you've done a handful of things on TV. The majority has been movies. Have you ever had any interest in doing more TV stuff? I know like you were in an episode of Hercules and stuff. Would that be something that would ever interest you in doing like an actual series?
I would love to do a series. We almost did a series when we did Irresistible Force with Stacey Keach. That was supposed to be a series. And what happened, it was at the time where action in America was like, people were saying, no, that promotes violence. And, it was for CBS, and CBS says no. And then they were calling Kevin Hooks, who was the director, saying she can't kick to the head and I don't want any blood in the movie. It was such a different day back then. And then they just shelved it. They said, no, it was actually, it was Irresistible Force that they thought was too violent for TV. So that was a close call. And I guess right now it's kind of close to TV. I'm doing for Black Belt Magazine, I'm doing a Black Belt Theater, yes, which we shot 12 episodes. And basically what we do is we review action movies, and we have different segments on it. It's kind of funny. My co-host is Stefan Johnson, who is one of the major TikTok comedians.
Yep.
So we do that, and it's exciting. I love doing that, and it gets me to watch, a lot of the old movies, and a lot of them I haven't even seen, because they're like from Japan, they're from all different countries. So I'm really excited about that TV show that we're doing now. So
I'm excited about that too, and I'm glad you brought it up because I've known Stefan for years because we both do voiceover work. So
how funny!
Yeah.
Really?
So I've met him at some voiceover conferences around the country and stuff, and we've chatted on the phone. It's such a good guy, and when he told me he was doing that, I got so excited. So yeah, I watched a couple clips of the episodes, and it's on what's the streaming service it's on?
Jungle Plus.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And it's different because at first, for the first 6 episodes, they kind of wanted us to be a little bit like I'm the expert and he doesn't know anything about it, and we kind of it was a little like kind of a who are you, whatever. And now the next 6 episodes, they let us just be ourselves, so it's quite funny. And so we're progressing as we go on and on and on.
Well, I'm excited for it, and I'll definitely put a link out there for that because I'm glad you got to work with Stefan because he's a hilarious guy and just super nice guy.
I know we have some really funny stuff going on now, so it's good.
Nice. And then I know looks like you have a couple new projects that are obviously some are filming pre-production. You never know what's going to happen post-production, but what's the TV miniseries, The Diary of a Lunatic, that's listed on here that looks like it's already completed?
Yeah, I shot that about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's going to go into a TV series or not. Okay. But that movie was shot. Trying to think. The things I have upcoming are more like movies, but I would love to do a TV series, because it's consistent work. You get involved into the character.
Right.
We'll see. Who knows? Maybe someday.
Like I said, hopefully the Black Belt TV thing will last for a while too, because it's a great idea. I can't believe they haven't thought of that before, and I'm glad they have you doing it. So hopefully it'll last for many years.
Right. And right now it's like, I think George said they have over 400 movies, and I was like, wow. And he's still acquiring more.
Nice.
But it's right now it's on Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you miss it, you can't see it again but they said in January, you'll be able to stream all the other episodes. So
good.
If people miss it, they can catch them then.
I was wondering about that because I know I missed a couple too. I'm like, dang it. So, okay, good. That'll be good in January. So
yeah, me too. Isn't it funny? I was like, if I miss it, I'll watch it later. Right. And I was like, well, no, there's things you can't go back and see.
I know. Come on, it's 2021. It's like, you should be able to watch anything once you miss it.
Right. Exactly.
That's good. Cool. So what advice would you give someone who approached you that said they've never done martial arts in their life? They're thinking of getting involved. What kind of tips would you give them? Maybe what to look for in a school, what to look for in an instructor, and maybe some things to avoid?
Well, first of all, I would definitely say, get involved in a good martial arts school, because I really do think everybody should know martial arts. And I think, why not? It's an excellent form to get in shape and to get your body in good condition. But at the same time, you're learning self-defense. So it's a 2-for-1. It doesn't get any better than that. But what I would tell people is, check out a couple studios in the area and go in and see them and get a feel for what feels good for you. Because when you don't know anything about martial arts, they could go in and everything kind of looks good. So you just got to look at the movements, look at the instructor. How confident is he? How's the discipline in the class? Sometimes some schools have an introductory class. You could take a couple lessons for inexpensive just to try it out and see how you like it. Do that and basically, find one that looks like that you would like to do, because, like I said, you can go to styles that have high kicks, styles that have low kicks, mostly hand styles, more acrobatic styles. So it depends on what the body's, I think a person's body type is and what kind of movement they think would seem fit for their body. It's all good. It's that, people always say, what's the best martial art? They're all good martial arts. It's not the martial art, it's the teacher.
Yeah, 100%. Well, maybe with one exception. I remember I told the story a few times, but when I went to college, there was 3 martial arts styles on campus, and there was one that was called Juku Kai. I didn't know anything about it. My friend took it. And for his green belt test, he actually had to take 10 groin kicks to pass his green belt test. I'm like, that may be the first truly bad martial art. I don't know.
What was the instructor, Master Ken?
That's what I was wondering. If that's what I thought of when I first saw Master Ken. I'm like, God, I wonder. But the funny thing was, my friend went through the test, passed, and then quit 2 weeks later. I'm like, why didn't you quit before they kicked you in the groin?
Oh yeah, that's weird. That's like kind of like, I don't know if it's like the old school training, but when I started training, I remember the instructors would be jumping on your stomachs to make sure your abs were tight.
Yep.
I remember one instructor, it wasn't my instructor, but it was like I was doing a class at another school, and if you weren't down low enough in your horse stance, he had one of those electric cow prod things, and he would zap you with it.
Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a little tougher, I think, back in those days. Now today, you can't do that because students will quit. And it was almost like the attitude then, like it wasn't a business for people. Everybody kind of had another job, and that was their part-time thing. So it wasn't about money. It was about, well, how good are you? And if you're good enough to hang in our school, okay.
Nice. I know my current instructor has always said that if he taught like he did in the 90s, he'd probably only have 5 students. And if he taught like his instructor did in the 70s and 80s, he'd probably be in jail. So.
Oh yeah, it's true, because I remember when I was testing for my black belt at Tang Soo Do, my instructor brought in 3 of the Korean instructors from Korea for 3 weeks prior to our black belt testing. And they were like, yeah, your students are good, but nobody knows how to fight. And they're like, what? So for 3 weeks, they have fought us heavy and hard. Wow. And I remember them saying, like, do a spinning kick. And I knew my other leg was coming out. And I would go home bruised and hurt. And my mom actually said, I think you need to quit this stuff, right? And she would never say that. And I'm like, no, Mom. And then I went in to my instructor, because I remember my instructor told me if they didn't want someone in the school, the students would beat them up so they'd never come back. And I was like, do you not want me in the school? And he's like, no. But I'll tell you what, the lesson I've learned from it, that I was never afraid to fight a woman in competition again, because I knew that they were not going to hit me as hard as these Korean guys did, so it was a good lesson for me, and a good training.
Oh, that's crazy. So what are now you've been studying martial arts for most of your life. What are your thoughts on MMA and the UFC, and are you a fan?
I am a fan. I would never do it, and I wouldn't recommend someone to do it. But, I'm a fighter. I like fighting. I like watching it, and if someone is crazy enough to get in there and do it, well, more power to you. I don't like it when it's just, like it looks like just a wrestle and nobody's really doing anything. I find that quite boring. But when there's really good techniques and there's also kicks involved and stuff like that, I quite enjoy it.
So if you had to pick one martial artist, whether it's someone you've actually trained with or just someone you've looked up to your whole life, one martial artist to put on the top of your list for someone you truly admire, who would that be and why?
Oh my gosh, that is like such a hard question, because there's so many martial artists.
And most of my guests pick more than one, just so you know that. But I always ask for one, and usually they'll name 4 or 5.
I would have to say my first instructor, Frank Chinovich, because if it wasn't for him, I feel I wouldn't be the martial artist I am today, right? That he taught me great technique, taught me how to teach, gave me my basic foundation. And then another one, I guess I'm inspired by and I respect, is Grandmaster Ernie Reyes. He taught me performance. He taught me how to not be just like everybody else, to shine above everybody else and bring your own creativity to it. And even today, he has stage 4 cancer, and he's training, and he's got the most positive attitude, and he's out there giving, inspiration to people, like not to quit, and, no matter how hard life is and what it bestows on you. And I love that. That's like the true warrior spirit.
That's cool. I met him once. I actually met him and Ernie Jr. at the Diamond Nationals in Minneapolis, and I think it was 1991 or 1992.
Oh gosh, I competed there I've won it 5 years in a row, 81 through 85, wow. Diamond Nationals.
Yeah, see, and I started martial arts in 84. My first time going to the Diamond Nationals in 1990. So I wouldn't have been able to see you, unfortunately. But
oh gosh, if you would have went in 85, would have been my last year. Actually, when I competed in the Diamond Nationals, I was doing the Hong Kong movie. So I would be on set. I have to go to the Diamond Nationals because I have to be number 1 this year, right? So I went, compete, come back on the set. It was like crazy. It was like, oh I was so tired because, when you're coming from Hong Kong, you have such jet lag. Then I had to go compete the next day and then fly back to Hong Kong the day after. Oh my gosh.
So I'm assuming then you also did the Battle of Atlanta too?
Battle of Atlanta, yeah, the U.S. Open.
Triple Crown.
Actually, yeah, there's one tournament we're talking about going with Black Belt Magazine. I'm going to go interview people if it goes. It's the AKA Grand Nationals, which is their 45th anniversary this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or next year, actually 22 coming soon. But yeah,
Nice.
I hit them all. I hit every A-rated tournament during those 5 years that there was.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually just interviewed Joe Corley last week. So, two weeks ago, and then I'm hoping to get Larry Carnahan too. I have a request into him, and I know he was. I sent the request to him right before the Diamond Nationals, and of course he was super busy. So I told him I'd reach back out in a few months. But I'm not sure if I've been to a couple big ones, and I've been to the Diamond Nationals, and I've been to Ed Parker's tournament in Long Beach. I was there in '95 and '96. I don't know which one's bigger. But I've been to, those are the two biggest ones I've been to just to watch and stuff. So.
Well, back in the day, the Long Beach Internationals were the tournament. I mean, Bruce Lee went there,
Yep.
And when I first moved to California, when I came in '81, one of the biggest, things I wanted to do was compete there. And I went there, compete, and I won, so that was such an eye opener for me because I was seeing all these people there that I read about. But yeah, that was the tournament back in the day.
Nice. Yeah, it was fun to go. Me and my buddy wanted to go watch, and we took our first ever cross country road trip in 1995. We watched my instructor test for his 5th degree black belt, and then we got in the car and we drove to California to go watch the tournament. So it was a fun road trip. So,
oh yeah.
In all your years in martial arts, is there a philosophy that really stands out for you? One that you still teach in your seminars, or that you really it comes back to you in your everyday life every now and then? Is there one that stands out?
Yeah, there's kind of two. One is don't give up, right? No matter how hard something appears, the more you do it, the better you get. You just have to have a positive attitude. So don't give up, and also put 100% effort into anything you do. Always do your best. Sometimes when I'm teaching seminars, and especially when I'm teaching self-defense, people are just walking through it in slow motion, right? And I'm like, that's not going to help you on the street. You really have to do it fast, and you have to do it strong. And you're only training for about an hour. So put 100% effort into it, which is going to make you a better martial artist. And it's also going to make you stronger and have better cardio. So I'd say those two things is don't give up on anything, and always put 100% of your effort into it. And, not only to martial arts, it applies to everything in life.
That's a great answer. I love that question. I've never gotten the same answer from anybody that I've asked that question to in 40 plus episodes. So
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice.
You should put a video together of just everybody's answers on that, because I always feel that, people could pick up something, and apply it to their own daily life from words of wisdom.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad. Maybe I'll do that on my 100th episode or something. Do
that would be awesome.
So there we go. All right. So favorite martial arts book.
I don't know. Let me see. What's my favorite martial art book? Oh gosh, I'd have to say the one I did with George Chung, Dynamic Kicks. I love that book, and I like the kicks in it, and I like the pictures. And I remember when we did that book, George is a phenomenal martial artist, right? And we have some really, really good pictures in there. But I remember at the time, it was when you do a kick and they'd have the shutter really slow. And then it looked like, you have 10 kicks to one kick. And then we have all that there. So I don't even know if you could get it anymore. But I think it's out of print, but Black Belt put it out. But I guess I really I'm proud of that. And I love that book.
Okay, cool. All right. These next two, you can't pick one that you've been in. So first one, favorite martial arts TV show.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I wouldn't pick one I've been in as a favorite, but I'd see it's a book, but not a martial art movie. But I'd say favorite TV show had to be Kung Fu with David Carradine. I love that show.
All right. So now about 5 or 6 of my guests have picked that. And I always ask the question, did you watch the sequel that came out in 91, The Legend Continues?
Was that with Brandon Lee?
No, that was the movie. That was the sequel to the movie. That was the movie. There was the TV series. It was with David Carradine, and Chris Potter played his son, who was a cop in San Francisco. It was a modern day where Kwai Chang Kang was his great grandfather or something.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch that one. Okay. I'm back to the old school one where he was the monk.
Okay, very cool. All right, and this one, favorite martial arts movie.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I just reviewed it and I still love it. It's Return of the Dragon,
Ah,
you know,
nice.
with Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee.
Yep.
I like that, or Enter the Dragon, the classic Bruce Lee movies.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you have so much more action and this and that, but I would have to say that, like I think those are classics and will always be a classic.
Oh, I agree completely. I rewatch all 5 of Bruce Lee's movies every couple of years because they're so good. So,
Oh yeah, well we reviewed a few of them on Black Belt. We did Chinese Connection,
okay,
right? And
nice.
I haven't seen that. And it's so funny. It's been so long. I don't even remember them, and it's good to go back and look, and it's funny, like, you killed my teacher. Why? It's
That's
funny.
awesome. I'll have to send some suggestions for you guys to review because I have
Oh yeah.
quite a
Yeah,
vast
please
list.
do.
But all right, so here's one that I've just started asking recently because it came up in conversation. So, doesn't necessarily have to be a martial arts movie, maybe just a regular movie that had some martial arts fight scenes in it. But is there a movie that you think has the most realistic martial arts fight scene?
Oh, the most realistic. I liked what Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh,
when he did the Wing
yes.
Chun. I love that. And I didn't know he was really a Wing Chun student
Yep.
because I liked how he thought about it slow and in his mind. And then he did it really fast in real life. And I was like, wow, he did that so well for not being a martial artist. And then I found out he was a Wing Chun stylist. But yeah, I really liked that action in that.
That's great. That's actually one that hasn't been mentioned before. I like that. That's cool. So I know myself, when I was first asked that question randomly from a friend, the first one that popped into my head was the Jason Bourne movies with Matt Damon. The one fight scene in the park when the cops are yelling at him for sleeping on the bench, and yeah, I love that scene.
Well, it's things that to me that stick out in your mind,
Yep.
like I've seen so many films and I don't even remember them, but there's certain ones. And I remember in the Kingsman, the first one, when Colin Firth first comes into the church,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I don't know like how realistic it was, but it was very, they made it look realistic and it was entertaining for me. So
Nice.
I remember that. I like that fight scene.
Well, so anything else that I maybe haven't asked you that we want to discuss before I let you go? And I truly appreciate your time, and anything else you want to talk about, I definitely want to get it out there.
I think just, people can get in touch with me on Facebook. I'm really involved in, keeping current everyday postings, and people can follow where I'm going to have appearances at, and what I'm doing movie wise and I'm on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel. And next week I'll be launching, it's going to be the Cynthia Rothrock Association. I'm going to be launching that, which is really exciting. It's not only for martial artists, but for fans as well. So people can tune in and see what that's about.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I guess that's all I could think of right now.
I love your scuba diving stuff you've been posting, because I've never been scuba diving. My son's a scuba diver. He got certified in Boy Scouts, but I've never done it myself. I love the pictures of that.
Oh, I know. I just started, actually. It's been a year really up until December, because I started in last December, and I did it because, COVID hit, and it was like, what am I going to do? What can I do? I'm home, I'm not working, I'm not traveling. And I was like, oh, we could do scuba. And it's something I've always wanted to do. And I've just become obsessed with it. I started not like a year ago. I have over 105 dives already.
Wow.
I love it. It's just, it's like relaxation for me when I'm under the water. At first it took a while because it was, it was very nerve wracking, and I was scared, and, because it's your life support system down there. You have to really know what you're doing, and you can't panic if something goes wrong. And I finally got to that point. So now I'm really enjoying it. And I love photography. I love taking pictures. And so that's opened up a whole new world of photography for me, is doing that. But I'm actually in January doing a liveaboard trip to the Maldives, and
Cool.
You stay on the boat, and you go to like 5 dives a day, and you live on the boat, and just for a whole week, just go diving.
Wow, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe someday I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm telling you, I did the Belize, the Blue Hole, which is like 131 feet down, right?
Wow.
And I was like petrified at that, like going down so far, because you really have to, watch your equalization, and you have to be aware of your safety stops, because that could really, you could get killed, like if you don't do it correctly. But for people that are, beginners or maybe a little afraid, you only have to go down about 30 feet, but you could go to places like Aruba where it's really shallow dive, but you still see beautiful fish and coral, and you're not that far down. So if you look up, you see the top. It's not as scary as going like the Blue Hole in Belize.
Okay, that's good to know.
And I would do it in the Caribbean where it's warm water and clarity.
Okay. Well, I'm in Minnesota. We have, over 11,800 lakes here too. So
yeah. Don't do it there.
No.
You want to be a scuba diver. Oh yeah. Well, I did it here in California, and you're thinking California is going to be nice. That's where I got my open water, and it was freezing. It was 47 degrees out when we went, and you couldn't see anything in the water, and there were currents, and yeah.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, that's for sure. But Cynthia, I just want to thank you. I'm so glad we were able to do this. I truly, it's been an honor having you on the show, and I truly appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.